What's going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets-Haber. We are going to be talking a little MLB today. Coming off a decent night, had a lot of the right stuff and some of the wrong stuff, and that's the way it goes sometimes. I had all my Giants unfortunately stacked with the wrong parts of Houston, and everything had Bregman in it. So that was my big blunder of the night, was getting a 0 out of Bregman. Was unfortunate because obviously it cost a lot. I made a lot of things work to try and fit him in. But the Brandon Belts and the Giants were just beautiful. Still a good night for me, especially in NBA, but did do okay in MLB as well. Sheets, how about you? And then let's get into
So I cashed in my two biggest buy-ins on in baseball, despite the DeGrom thing. And I want to say something. I'm going to act like a little baby right now. Okay, I really just am. Okay, because there was a guy in our chat, and he's 3/4 angry troll, but I think he's 1/4. I do think he's 1/4 decent dude. I really do. And he says some semi-nasty stuff, but then mixes it in with some okay stuff, whatever. So I'm still not 100% want to get rid of him yet. But like I was telling everybody, I was going to be 100% DeGrom, 100% DeGrom, and all this stuff. And he comes in and says, "You idiot! Don't you realize he's just going to come out early? He's just going to get freaking injured. How can you do this? Whatever." And I'm like, that's the risk I'm willing to take. And say, well, you're going to pay for it or something like that. And the guy came in, DeGrom came after 3 innings. I think I'm just going to ban that guy just because I'm mad. You know what I mean? And I said, like,
it's 3 innings and 3 of the best innings anybody's thrown in baseball in ever. I mean, he was 9 outs, 8 strikeouts. I mean, that was pretty crazy. No,
Larry B, if you're listening, go F off. So you were right. Big freaking deal. Anyway.
Was he right though? Like, that's the question. I mean, DeGrom was still tied for the highest scoring pitcher of the night, I believe.
I know, but still,
it's weird. Like, I mean, it was a strange thing. I didn't even feel all that bad about it. I don't.
Dude, he pitched 4 innings and he had like 11 strikeouts or something. It's like
3 innings and 8 strikeouts. He had 9 outs, 8 of them strikeouts. It was pretty nuts.
Yeah, there it is.
We're gonna get into today. I have a very decided what I'm gonna do today, which is a little bit unusual. Partly it's because I've been up editing golf lineups for a while, but.
Okay.
And it's going to start, with if you pull up your screen, we're going to start with the first game here because I really.
Dude, let me tell you something. I have to say, I mean, I usually feel as though, well, it depends on the day. Like sometimes, like one of us is more prepared than the others.
Yeah.
The other, I usually, for whatever reason, I feel as though sometimes I'm more prepared than you are.
Yeah. Well, you're up earlier than I am. I mean,
right. No, I know that, But on this particular day, I feel as though you're more prepared than I am because I know you've been up and looking a little bit. And I literally, what I did was and this is like for the people, right? So I uploaded my stuff. I uploaded to the site. So basically everybody on the site knows what I like before I do. pretty much. Because I really haven't had a chance to look through it yet. So I'm going to be going off of there are a couple of things that stand out just really right off the bat. But I'm kind of in your mode right now, like where you said, listen, let's not look at it. Let's just get through it, and you'll learn as you start to go through it, which is kind of where I am going to learn from doing this. So the first game.
Can I just touch on that real quick because I think it's an important point. Sometimes I actually like coming in a little bit unprepared because I want to go through the viewer's experience. I want it for the early shows. You know what I mean? I want them to have some idea of feeling it out and trying to understand it's sort of deciding what we're going to do because I feel like it's important to process. But at the same time, it is also because I'm on the West Coast and you're on the East Coast. And when we record in the morning, I haven't had hours to think about it or anything like that. I just sort of am going off of it while we're going. I usually do a brief rundown beforehand. Today I did an extensive one because I have to be prepared. I had to be prepared because I'm going to be leaving a little bit later.
See, what I usually do from time to time is when I'm like unprepared, and then I just do that. I then like pretend that I was doing it on purpose to get the viewer experience. Like when you actually are doing it to get the viewer experience, I just kind of like back test. I'm like, no, I really was prepared, but I decided not to get the viewer experience when I really was just lazy.
I want to say, starting with the first game though, I have an apology for someone who the people who asked me about Stripling last night being viable. Actually, he may have ended up being the highest scoring pitcher. Wow. I don't want to say I made a mistake, but it was a logical point that they were making, and sometimes things just work out. It looked in the first inning like he was not going to last a couple innings even, and then he just started mowing them down. And it was probably worth it to take the shot that no one wanted to take. If you're striking out, you can't hit home runs even at Coors. So, and this is like I said, we should treat the stadium like Coors. But if you're not making contact, it's not going to matter. So, just wanted to throw that out there.
My initial look at again, you could give me you have probably a bigger breakdown than I do. My initial look is that the Yankees are Probably, yeah, definitely a top 5 stack. Depending on how much I want to pay for pitching, I can move him up to second. If I have to pay down, maybe if I have to pay up, maybe if I could squeeze them in, maybe they'll drop down to 5th. But they're certainly going to be in play. I think everybody playing in Toronto is in play. The Yankees, playing anywhere is in play. So the Yankees playing in Toronto is going to be in play. And against, not great, not that I know who TJ Zoich really is, but, I'm just going to presume that he's not someone that's going to just mow down the Yankees. So I definitely think that instinct and certainly just logic would tell you that the Yankees are in play. Is that correct?
Yeah, the Yankees are in play, but the thing is, I don't think that they're going to be popular at all, because I think that in order to stack them on DraftKings, especially, so first of all, I love the Yankees and Blue Jays. I love both sides. I like the Blue Jays side a little better because honestly, at this point, I'm sort of viewing the Blue Jays like somewhat of a better lineup. Sorry to say, the Yankees haven't exactly been world beaters this year. But I do like both sides of it. And I think that the Yankees will be very much lower owned than I think you think that they will, just right off the bat. They're going to be higher owned than probably their initial projections, but I don't know if they're going to be as high owned as, well, I think the Blue Jays will have ownership. I think the Colorado, Milwaukee game, we've got, the Angels, Tampa Bay. There's a lot of teams that are San Diego that are stackable. But the Yankees are it makes it a little tricky if you want to play like Stanton, Judge, and then do you really want to play 4.8 for Gleyber and 4.6 for Urshela, or 4.5 even for LeMahieu, who's only, hit 4 or 5 home runs this year, 4,800 for Sanchez. So the guys you really want aren't cheap. And then the guys you even could fill in like Andujar and Odor aren't even that cheap on DraftKings. So I don't see them as being the stack everyone's going to go with. That might change just early in the day, but I certainly do like them quite a bit. And Stanton and Judge will be in a good portion of my lineups. I'll use some Odor and Urshela on FanDuel where they're cheap. And on the other side of this game, I really want to target Grichuk, Hernandez, Guerrero, and Bichette, and Simeon. Those are my 5 guys. That's sort of the way I would want to stack them. I also don't mind if you want to throw in, I have a lineup with a Joe Panic because I needed to spend down, which doesn't feel great. But again, contact hitter batting sixth probably in this lineup as part of a stack is okay with me, or Biggio, who finally went out last night. And then you've got Reese McGuire as the 2K option. So I do like the Blue Jays. I think they'll be a little more popular than the Yankees, but not crazy popular because of the prices. I really do like, this is the game I'll be targeting the most.
One of the things that I'm working on is something similar to what one of the other sites do, where you rank teams based on their chances of doing well, and also as a function of their ownership and stuff. Like right now, it's early, but right now I have the Yankees and the Blue Jays, both of them, with not getting all that much ownership. I have them like 5th and 6th most owned, honestly, like behind like several of the teams that you mentioned.
I forgot Atlanta too. Atlanta's the obvious one.
That was the 4. Those you touched on all 4 of them. The ones that I thought are going to be more. There's one of that's going to be more highly owned, and I think that the Yankees and Toronto, they both look very. I think Toronto might be a little lower owned than the Yankees, but I don't think the Yankees are going to be all that popular. So if you can get those guys in, which I think you can, given the pitching options.
Yep.
But it goes both ways, right? If you can get them in, aren't they going to be more popular? No, because of Milwaukee's in Colorado, right? Okay. All right. So yeah. So I totally agree. I think both sides are in play here, and yeah, I'm glad I talked through it that way. Actually.
Yeah, I think it's just they're my favorites, along with Atlanta on the slate. I do like also I mentioned the Angels and Tampa Bay. We'll get into Coors in a little bit. I'm very much off the hitting in that game. Okay. And very much on the other side. All right, you want to talk Chicago and the Mets, which is kind of a blah game?
Yeah, I think Stroman's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have him as my 4th ranked. I have like 4 pitchers like above everybody else, mm-hmm. Actually, there's 1 pitcher above everybody else, but 4 pitchers above everybody else, and Stroman's like the 4th. So he's in there. I mean, I think he's fine. He's not like the greatest strikeout pitcher in the world, but he's I'm kind of into him. I told you, I don't know if you remember, but there was an interview with Neil Heaton, who actually coached him in Little League, Stroman. And I kind of like this kid. I don't know if he's the greatest fantasy producer, but he's fine. You know, I'll throw him in the mix, and the Cubs are nothing to be a skirt of. I don't see the Mets and the Cubs being like big part of my hitting right now. So if I had to give my first look, I would say probably a little bit of Stroman, maybe not much of Hendricks, if at all, and not much of the hit.
Yeah, and to Stroman's credit, we have Trip Gibson, I only have a little bit of umpire data because it's still early, and you got some new series here, but they do have one of the better pitchers umps in baseball. Definitely gives them a little bit of a boost. I'm not touching the bats in this game. Both these guys are good pitchers, and the only guy I would consider would be expensive on DraftKings anyway. You have Stroman, extreme ground ball pitcher, versus assuming that he's in the lineup, which I can't see why he wouldn't be. Jock Peterson leading off. Like, I know that you always get the risk, but again, Stroman's probably not going to come out of the game right away, but you have an extreme fly ball hitter versus an extreme ground ball pitcher. And that people have told me that leads to home runs sometimes. So I'll just leave it at that. This next game is interesting in every way for me. I do like Morton a lot. He's the other spend down pitcher there's two I'm looking at, and he's the one that I probably like. I like him second best of my spend downs. But you don't really, again, it's not that much of his savings. I just think he had a bad outing last time. You got a right-handed dominant lineup. Even though they're a solid, like, on paper offense, there's plenty of weak spots in this lineup, and I don't mind taking Morton in the discount. And I love Atlanta. They're the other team that I want to try and target against John Gant. So I think you can get him with power and stolen bases. So the main ones for me are going to be Albies and Acuna, and then of course Almonte at 2.2 is pretty tough to resist.
I'll tell you, man, I was in the position in the 250 to do something if what's his name. It's a lot to ask, but Albies came up with the freaking bases loaded with like all my guys on base too.
Yeah, he was killed us,
and he didn't do anything. But that was because I had Atlanta and Boston. I had that whole freaking game stacked with. I had DeGrom, but again, DeGrom was fine, and then it was oh well, that's what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with everything that you said. They're for me ranked like tied actually with two other kind of chalky hitting just on first look. Almonte, like you said, Freeman, Acuna, Albies, and Swanson was at the fifth. Those are the five I came up with.
Yeah, and I think Swanson will be low owned again. Seems to always be. Had a monster game yesterday, which helped save me. Austin Riley should be low owned as well. So those would be the lower owned parts of the stack. But I really like mixing in these guys if you can with the Yankees in Toronto. That's my main my favorite hitting options of the day are those three spots.
All right.
So, but yeah, what are your thoughts on Morton? Any interesting?
Yeah, I like him a lot. I have him as third right now.
Awesome. Okay. All right, Houston and Chicago. Oddly enough, this game is like exactly a cross off for me. I don't think I need to try to attack with Houston hitters, especially assuming that Bregman's going to be out. Cease is not exactly not a world beater, but this guy's put up some of the best games of the season, like of anybody. Like 37, 40, 36, 31. Like he's had some big outings. I'm not messing with it. I don't think there's any reason I should try to target these games. I don't mind if you want to take a one-off from Houston, a one-off from you do have a low strikeout pitcher, fairly low strikeout pitcher against a White Sox team that strikes out, which means maybe that, if they're putting the ball in play, maybe you could argue for a White Sox stack, but I'm just going to stay away from this one. What are your thoughts? Anything?
Yeah, I wasn't quite getting to, I didn't get to either of them at first look. I have to go way down into my list to get to them. Actually, not way down, but they're below like all the teams we mentioned, like Toronto, Yankees, Angels, Braves, Tampa, and Milwaukee, right?
Right.
I don't think I'm getting that much of an ownership discount. And you told me Bregman's out?
I'm going to assume he got knocked out of the game last night.
Yeah,
I had the Chase McCormick too, which was at 0% ownership and 2 home runs and 30 fantasy points, was looking great. But the Bregman part just couldn't get around it. Yeah, I would assume he's out today. And you look at the White Bear lineup, I mean, it's just not that exciting. You got, I mean, Brantley makes some sense. Jordan Alvarez, sure. Any of these guys are fine. There's better spots to attack on the slate, in my opinion.
Yeah. You don't like her kitty at all?
I don't like her kitty.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't. Yeah. Leave it at that. He's always an option, but I'm never a guy I'm usually that high on.
I got you.
Milwaukee, Colorado. Okay, so these are 2 of my favorite pitchers on the slate. As you're starting to pick up, so let me just tell you what Herman Marquis has done his last home games, okay? So this year at home, in 50 innings, he's allowed 2 home runs, okay? That's obviously a terrific home run rate, especially throwing the fact that it's in Colorado. Not only that, he's pitched most of his games in Colorado. So these are his last outings. He's had 13. He had a 13 fantasy point game against Arizona early in the season for his second start of the year. Was still sort of gearing up. So that was kind of a down one for him. He had the Dodgers on opening the first game, struggled there. That was the first game. So let's just throw those 2 out the window. He's had 1 game out of his last 7 home starts that we wouldn't love. These are his last home starts: 24.5, 25.5, 31, 19, which is, again, I would take it 5,500. He had the 1 bad one against the Giants where he gave up to 8 runs in a third of an inning or whatever. And then he had 20 and 27. So basically, take away the 1 Giants game, he's averaging like 26 fantasy points per game at home, and he's projected to have 11 against one of the worst offenses in baseball. Now, they've gotten a little bit better, a little bit healthier, but there are tons of strikeouts in that lineup. I am absolutely going to make Marquis, as of right now, he's my number 1 pitcher on DraftKings for my main lineup. I don't see how I'm not going to play him at 5,500, especially wanting to get in the Toronto Yankees bats. And I have 0 interest in any hitting in this game whatsoever. I actually think that, I understand it's great hitting weather in Colorado. I understand that, Colorado's a different team at home. Woodruff is way too good for me to mess with. And Marquis, these numbers at home, if you eliminate that Giants game, that 1 2/3 of an innings game where he just got rocked, he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball when he's at home. That's crazy, but it's the facts. And Milwaukee, we've been picking on them all year. I'm not going to stop now. Let's play Marquis today.
Well, that's the end of the story, right? So that's always the big battleground is in these Coors games, is to what extent you want to go with them, or to what extent you want to fade them. So we talk about this a lot, right? So let's say you have a situation like Milwaukee, right? So Milwaukee is going to project like the best stack and the best players and the best hitters, and they'll be the most popular, right? And if you don't want to play them for ownership for other reasons, there's a couple of things you could do. Number 1 is you could, I'm just going to talk through this. You could, just play like Bobby sometimes does, like just 1 or 2 guys from that side and do something else. Other thing you could do if you wanted to play Milwaukee is play the lesser owned of the guys, like the 8, 9, 7s and whatever it is. The other thing you could do is completely fade the Milwaukee hitting side and just pivot to like some other hitting thing. And then if you want to do like just double, triple leverage, you can play the pitcher against that team, which automatically fades them. And that, provides just the biggest stand and the biggest leverage. Now, typically you don't want to do that in and of itself unless you have another reason for it. But what Bobby's actually provided is a reason to take the opposing pitcher, aside from just being a pain in the ass. You know what I mean? Aside from just the leverage it provides. I mean, he laid out a really good case for Marquis in and of himself. You know what I mean? Not just because Milwaukee was going to be chalky, not just because Milwaukee was going to be, highly projected or whatever it is, not just to get double leverage. So when you have all of those things kind of stacking up, that to me is kind of is an ultra elite play. Now, is it going to work every time? No. Is it going to be, you know what I mean? Is it something I recommend all the time? No, but I think that this is just a perfect example of what is I don't want like elite play, meaning that it's going to work. So I'm never going to guarantee it works. But I think that is if you're teaching someone how to play DFS, and I think that's a perfect thing to do. And I didn't even know who was playing before we launched this video. So I'm just that makes perfect sense to me. And that's right.
Yeah, and if you skip the run total and look at things like, so I like to look at K props for pitchers. So you have Musgrove and Ohtani at 7.5 today. You have a 6.5 for Woodruff, and then it's a bunch of guys tied for 5.5, like Cease, like Stroman, like Morton, and Herman Marquis. I can't find a reason why this. Like, I honestly think it's such an obvious play that you should be making. And if you could just look at the game log, this happens every year with this guy. And sometimes he's struggled more. This year, he's not struggling. He looks great. He's had a couple bad innings. That's basically it. That's what stopped him from being elite this year. And he actually struggled on the road, which is definitely a little weird. But I just can't help myself here. I think that imagine he was 5.5 and it was in Milwaukee. Like, we would be, people would be lock and loading this guy. Like, I don't know. I just can't get away from this. I think he's going to be one of the top 5 pitchers on the slate, and he obviously saves you the money that you can spend outside of Coors. And then you're getting leverage also by not playing. Every which way, it works out great for tournaments. Now, like you said, it won't work every time, but it's worked every time but once over his last, 7 out of his last 8 starts. It's worked every time. And they've mostly been better offenses than Milwaukee is. So I'm very into that play. And I do like Woodruff too. I just don't know. I'd like to see the pitchers, whether it's a pitcher or hitter's umpire, before I spend 10-2 on him. That's it.
I don't like Woodruff at all. I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, again, I would be remiss if I didn't say that. So even on just straight numbers, for example, even with the absence of leverage, I only have Milwaukee, and I've alluded to this before, as one of like 4 teams that are all really close. And the fact that they're going to be just much higher owned than the other 3 teams, that's enough reason in and of itself to fade them, right? So it's not just fading them just because they're chalky. It's fading them because they don't even rate to, like, for example, I think that Milwaukee today is just light years more fadeable than the San Diego chalk was over the last couple of days. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But I really felt that, though, that San Diego chalk was very good. It was very good chalk. There really wasn't any other great options. Where here, I just feel as there are other good options.
Yeah, I get it. I do think that the one thing about the Colorado side, I don't want to play Colorado against Woodruff, but
I don't know.
I would just say that they're not going to be owned at all. At all. Only Brendan Rodgers will be owned. I really can't imagine how anything else happens that anybody plays these guys. So you can always play the low owned Colorado stack to get a little different, I guess, but I'm not going to do it. This next one's kind of interesting because I have a feeling that if this game was in Cincinnati, this would be the mega chalk of the slate. And if we hadn't seen the Padres kind of struggle, although they did get together a little bit yesterday, struggle a little bit in Colorado. But you've got so Musgrove, I like a ton. He would be the number one where you start your cash game lineups, in my opinion. It's always, Cincinnati, we know they have upside as an offense in general, but they also have downside. And we know Musgrove has upside and also has, it's not even downside. He's got a very medium side to him. He can have he has had a lot of middling games in a row, but I think he's a really good play here. 8,900 seems very reasonable to me. I like him on both sides. He's my main pitcher on FanDuel. But he would actually rate to be the best cash pitcher in my mind. And then San Diego bats, which people are going to be a little bit more off of today, with the exception of Machado and Tatis. I think that they're interesting if I was playing a bunch of lineups, but I just have a very decided idea of what I'm doing, so I'm not using them. Okay. Any interest for you?
I think I agree with you with respect to Musgrove. I think he's one of the top 2. I think he's one of the top 2 pitchers on the slate. I don't have him as much of a standout as you do, but definitely one of the top 2.
That's where I have him too, but I just have him as number 1. That's it.
Okay.
Just because he has a longer leash than Ohtani. That's the truth.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to much of the hitting over here.
Yeah. It's always interesting to the lefty versus Tatis, but again, just different than how I'm building today. I'm preferring Bichette over Tatis today, which feels weird to say out loud. Bichette's great too, but like Tatis is just a monster.
Right.
All right, so we have the next game, I'm guessing the other guy for you, Ohtani, which would rate to be the other cash game play. What I just would say is that we play tournaments, okay? That's what we do. And while Ohtani has extremely high strikeout stuff, he never goes more than 6. He usually is in the 5-6 range. And that's my only real argument. I think he's a really good option, and I think he's got the perfect matchup. He would be your cash game. You would start Musgrove and him in your cash games, in my opinion, if you were doing it the right way.
Okay, so I agree with that, but I also don't necessarily think it's I'll be devil's advocate again. I mean, I guess this is all kind of baked into projections and everything, but I don't think that it's I wouldn't say that it's the perfect matchup. I mean, I would prefer a lefty against Detroit. You know what I mean? Like I have him pretty much the same as Musgrove, honestly. Nothing big deal. I think they're both. And I agree with what you said.
It doesn't matter whether you prefer a lefty. Why wouldn't he be? There isn't a lefty, so there's only him. So it's still the perfect matchup. It's not like Detroit crushes right-handed pitching at all.
Right. No, it's not their question. I'm just saying, like the nut matchup against Detroit would be a.
I would actually see it the other way, but.
Oh, I just know Detroit against lefties is just beyond ridiculous. It's just beyond hopeless.
Well, I mean, Jonathan Scope, Eric Haas, Miguel Cabrera, pretty much all of their. Robbie Grossman's better from the right side. So is Goodrum. I just feel like all of their best hitters are better from the right side. So I don't know. That's just where I have it personally, except for maybe Castro and Mazzara, who wouldn't play against lefties. But
yeah. So in any case, it really I don't know where these ownerships are going to come in. Like for me, I mean, honestly, like I'll bump up Marquis just because. But aside from him, for example, I mean, I got Ohtani, Musgrove, Morton, Stroman. I really could live with all of them, you know. And I think they are all going to be owned.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them are going to be particularly
Marquis. Not going to be owned.
Right, no, I meant the four on top of Marquis.
Oh, right.
But I guess Ohtani's going to be most popular, right?
I think that Musgrove will be in Ohtani. Musgrove and Ohtani will be really close, is my guess.
Okay.
But probably maybe it might be Ohtani just because people see Detroit and they always do it. But we've seen that fail too a million times. But the interest in this game for me is the bats on the LA side. This guy couldn't even pitch in the minor leagues. You know, I like to pick on Detroit's bullpen. Obviously, there are better hitting spots than LA today, but you have Keen Wong at 2K who saves you some money. You've got Upton, Stassi. It's not the most exciting lineup to play. Jared Walsh. Those are the guys who I would prioritize. Maybe you could throw in Taylor Ward. It's 2.9 on DK. But I do think that against Detroit and this bullpen and this guy was horrible I don't know what he's even doing in the majors, to be honest with you. So it is kind of a bullpen game, but it's the bullpen game that you want because it's Detroit.
Yeah, I'll reiterate Stassi, Walsh. I like the Lagares a little bit. Taylor Ward, like you mentioned. Upton, yeah, the usual clowns. And I did not get to any Detroit leverage stacks today. I usually like to, but I just didn't get to any of that today. So yeah, the Angels. Something about the Angels just doesn't feel like they should be ranked as high as these other ones. You know, well, we'll get to Tampa in a second.
I agree. It would have taken a situation just this good for me to have any interest in them.
So this guy's really this bad, huh?
He's terrible, and so is the bullpen. It's just,
okay.
And garbage teams will throw out garbage players when they have nothing to play for, really. So, you never know if this game gets to be like, 9-0 in the fifth or something. You might start seeing position players pitching. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but we've seen it a number of times this season.
I just have and this is something that we don't really talk about a lot. I wonder the comment that you just made there for a second. Yeah, I guess they have nothing. I was going to say, I thought the Tigers did not have that bad a record. Yeah, I guess they're pretty bad. To 20, 30, and 40. All right, it's not
and they've played much better than people thought in their 30 and 40. They've gotten, Jonathan Scope revival, and they've been hitting the ball way better than they project. Well, the people thought they would be hitting the ball, I guess, but it's still awful. Like their overall numbers are pretty bad. Tampa Bay, Seattle. This is the other team this would be, I guess, the fourth team on my list of stacks. No, the fifth, I guess. It's them and the Angels. I prefer Tampa Bay's actual hitters. And look, Justin Dunn, I'm still on the record of saying that I don't want to say this kid sucks and he's going to be.
He's not that bad. Okay.
I do think that he's at a point of his pitching career where you can totally exploit him. He can get wild. He also gives up a lot of hard contact. The strikeouts are sort of hit and miss. He'll have 9 in 5 innings, then he'll have 2 in 6. It doesn't, or 2 in 5. But most of his starts this year, he's done enough to not be as bad as everybody thinks. I like this Tampa offense against especially young pitchers. You've got a lot of experienced hitters, a lot of guys with power. The stadium in Seattle, well, it's definitely a pitcher's park, no question. So is Tampa, so they don't really get a huge downgrade there. Brandon Lowe is one of the best plays on the slate. They're going to be popular. Brandon Lowe, Ji-Man Choi, Taylor Walls, Rosarena, and Austin Meadows would be my favorite plays here.
And if you needed to save money, you could swap out one of them for Kiermaier at 2,400.
Yep.
But I don't think you need to save money today. I think that like all the pitchers that you're going to want to play are all cheap. You know, even the non-marquees. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I also, to speak to your Kiermaier point, by the way, Justin Dunn does allow basically about as many stolen bases as anybody in baseball. So Brandon, that makes the Lowe play and Meadows and a Rosarena and then you get Kiermaier at 2.4, all excellent options in my opinion. Same with Taylor Walls, he could even run. I just think that there's a lot of upside for this offense, even if they don't score an amazing amount of runs. There's a lot of power in this lineup, and then you've got a garbage bullpen behind Dunn in Seattle.
What I was going to say is that before, when you were mentioning the Tigers, is that, you know, as DFS players, you just kind of like forget like who's you know, in first and who's in second, like actual standings of teams and stuff like that. How good are the freaking Rays, man? I mean,
every year they're the best franchise. I mean, if you have to they've had to get rid of so many stars, and they found so many guys that no one could quite figure out, and they made all these incredible trades. Like, what an incredible organization! And then they lose their former Cy Young winning pitcher, and they're better, honestly. Well, not better. They're just as good as they were last year.
I mean, they have Glass now, and no other pitchers anybody's heard of. I mean, like, and then like, it's just crazy.
And they're about to have more too, because that guy McClanahan is going to be a monster.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and then they'll lose him too. Like,
yeah, exactly. But then they'll make another trade for 2 guys who were like him and end up fulfilling their destiny, like they did to get Austin Meadows. They got rid of Chris Archer, and they get back Austin Meadows and Tyler Glass now.
Whatever happened to Chris Archer?
There you go. Nothing.
Yeah, I guess so.
That was the big trade. Like, I mean, they really made out well on that trade. I was, shocked. But yeah, so that's pretty much my view of the slate is Toronto, Yankees, Atlanta is my favorites. With the
you can afford all that, man.
Because I'm playing Marquee and Morton.
Yeah, but you could afford all that even if you didn't play Marquee.
Nah, well, I'm not playing any of the Yankees. I'm not going to play Brett Gardner. I'm not going to play any nonsense from them.
No, but like, even if you play like Musgrove and Itani, I mean that leaves you. I mean that leaves you 41. Maybe not.
I mean everybody I want is like over 5'6", 5'5" or over.
Yeah, so it's the Biz Marquee show tonight, right?
Yeah. And for those of you who play cash or playing single entries and stuff, and if you don't want to, I actually will do it in my single entries. But if you don't want to do it, don't think, okay, well, Bobby said Marquee in Colorado and he gets lit up. There is obviously a chance that happens, but I'm just saying this is the right play to make, in my opinion. This is the right way to play tournaments, especially at the minuscule ownership you'll have. And I can't really see it getting much higher. I mean, I can't really see it getting too high because
do you think it's going to be one of those things where he's like 3% in the whatever, and in the big one he'll be like 15?
It could be like 5 and 15 or something. I think people are like, I think the sharper players will come on to making this move, and you won't get it in the other tournaments. But still, even today, they may not, just because the other pitchers aren't really expensive that you need to get.
Yep.
But again, he could end up being as high as he could be the highest scoring pitcher on the slate, and that would not surprise me one bit. I actually think he's projected for me in the top 5. So that's really good enough for me at 5,500 when I want to stack the expensive Toronto, New York, and Atlanta. All right. Have you got anything else to add before we?
I think we know what we're rooting for.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm excited. I wish the slate was starting right away. I'm excited for some golf. Hopefully, we'll have some sweats to talk about. Yeah, unfortunately, you won't be live for us tomorrow. I will make it back. I will do my best to make it back tonight. I'm 99% sure I'm going to make it back.
Today, you mean?
Today.
But either way, I can handle today. That's fine.
All right. Well, so that's where we're at, guys. And yeah, good luck to everyone. And we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards tonight. Any questions, drop in chat. And I mentioned one more thing. Check out Sheets while they're free. We need to get you guys like looking at this. This is a pretty much the best aggregation of information you're going to find in the industry. And that's a really, really cool thing. So,
and I'm adding a new thing, by the way, to it, where I'm actually including the standard deviation of the numbers, meaning that kind of like the reliability of each one of them. You know what I mean?
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. The other thing is that also, you know, Bobby, actually, you would appreciate this. So they finally grinded me out. I tried my best to be like a nice guy in the Discord and give everybody leash, you know, with doing whatever. But the Discord's gonna be premium or paid. Like if it were me, I would do it like today. Okay.
Oh, we're doing it. It's some technical stuff.
I'm done. I'm kind of over it. You know what I mean? I'm kind of over the troll. And the other thing, just as a public service announcement, if you're like a paid subscriber and you're paying like every month and you troll and act like an asshole in there, you're gonna get banned also. You know what I mean? So it's just I tried. I always try to be the nice guy. Bob was like, "How do you tolerate that?" You know, everybody reached their breaking point, and that's
finally gone. Yeah, see, that's what happened. I've got more experience in this industry with you than trolls than you have, for sure. Yeah. All right, guys. Good luck, everybody. We'll see you at the top of leaderboards tonight.